Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Embodied by Mac. My name is Michaela. I'm an evolutionary and predictive astrologer, and today we're here for your February 2026 horoscopes. This is a rocking and rolling month because we start off the month with a very dramatic full moon in Leo, and then we have Saturn moving into Aries, which is initiating a 3-year cycle. Saturn's going to conjunct Neptune at 0 degrees Aries, which is a cycle we have never experienced before in our lifetimes. That's a total reset in a certain part of your life. And we also have a new eclipse season starting in the Aquarius Leo axis. So, eclipse seasons tend to be pretty intense and can accelerate things in our life and feel like we're being forwarded back onto our path or redirected onto our path. And it's really where time collapses, karmic situations kind of fall into place and we get redirected and pushed along further in our journey for growth, for evolution, to meet your aspirations, to meet your goals, your manifestations, what have you. But eclipses can be intense emotional periods. So we're going to talk about that definitely. And then towards the end of the month, we are in the middle to the end of the month, we are in a Mercury retrograde period. So, first Mercury retrograde of 2026. So, there's just a few things I want to touch on for each of the astrological signs for this month. I think that's pretty much enough to get covered. And at the end, if you feel like you want a reading with me, then you can go to embodiedbymac.com. You can book a reading right through there, or you can connect with me on any of my social media on Instagram, TikTok, or here on YouTube. You can find my email, send me a letter, and let me know if I can help you. And if you want a reading to navigate the next 6 months ahead for us in 2026. Okay, so make sure you hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already, and get ready for your horoscope. Okay, my Aquarius and Aquarius risings. We are going to start the month off with that full moon in Leo that's happening in your seventh house of partnerships and relationships, one-to-one relationships. Okay. This is ultimately an illumination and a culmination, okay, of what you need in your relationships. Okay. That can be your personal relationships, like your friendships, the people that are close to you, and your romantic relationships and your commitments. This is also people that fall under the umbrella of your clients or business partnerships and so forth. Okay. So there can be an emotional clarity here that on how you're relating to others. What are they exposing to you about yourself, and like what are you allowing, and what do you need? There's a desire for you at that Leo seventh house to feel recognized in your relationships and to feel that sense of loyalty and that warmth in your connections. And this full moon is going to illuminate where that exists and where it doesn't. Okay. It's very powerful because it's linking to a set of eclipses that we're going to talk about next after I talk about this full moon. But the relationships in your life are here to reach a culmination or a turning point. So it's very likely you're going to be exposed to what things are, what is the reality of it, and can you integrate them into the next chapters of your life, or is there a need to let go of imbalanced partnerships and release them, no longer integrate them, they don't serve a purpose, they aren't necessary? Because really, these relationships need to value you for your uniqueness and who you are, and send the love and the warmth and the generosity that you are so easily able to give in your partnerships that you have and withhold. This could also mean that you're having some bold and dramatic conversations when it comes to your partnerships and relationships, and there's like an emotional revelation or something that's revealed, whether that's through you or somebody else. Okay. So it's very much a calling to realize what you need. Recognize that there might be some drama, emotional drama impacted behind this full moon, okay? But it's really about a call to show up more authentically with these one-on-one people, and release them if they aren't validating you and giving you what you need and what you feel is of equality and fairness in your one-to-one commitments. Next, we're going to move into a very big pattern that's happening on the 13th of February when Saturn and Neptune are starting a new cycle at 0 degrees of Aries in your third house. That is your communication house, all right? The style of your communication and also where you get your ideas and your shared perspectives, they come from your ideas, your opinions, and your perception, essentially, of the world. So Saturn and Neptune are two very different energy archetypes, but there is a way to harmonize them and create an environment where they can be both healing and serve of structure for one another in this communication dynamic of your house, right? So on one hand, Saturn really wants you to think long-term mindset of how your daily interactions go, but really like what is your mental perspective? And do you need to shift into new mental perspectives in order for you to have a container for yourself that's healthy, okay? And that container is going to provide you a safe space so that you're able to communicate more clearly, that you can have boundaries with your communication. Maybe even you need to establish a sense of authority in your communication style. And Saturn's going to come in here for the next 3 years and give you more of a sense of authority behind your communication style or your voice, okay? This could also be rebuilding boundaries around your mental energy and the information that you take in. Sometimes we can have a very porous way of taking information when Neptune kind of comes in here because Neptune is cracking open your perspective and your perception of reality and information, and it can be flooding at times, like you're holding on so much information that you don't know how to communicate it. And you're kind of getting overwhelmed and flooded on some sense because the universe is opening you up to new ways of thinking and communicating. But also, Saturn can serve as a constructive container or something to build that off of, right? So you can have these long-term mental shifts that are going to reorientate the direction of your life, right? And how important is this? Because you usually, what we think, we tend to believe, right? And then what we believe, we tend to manifest and make happen in our exterior world. So here's a 3 year transit period and also a 4 year transit period where you're really going to learn new dynamics and new shifts when it comes to your thought process and having an authority over your communication style and learning to communicate with a sense of strength, if you will, right? A sense of autonomy over your voice, over your thinking patterns. This might be learning a new communication style. Maybe you're taking a course that helps you along this journey. Maybe you decide to learn a new language. Or maybe you're just feeling the tension between clarity and confusion when it comes to your communication styles because Neptune will bring the confusion and Saturn's here fighting for the clarity. And so you're going to learn how to navigate through the both, okay? Now you would have had a preview of Neptune March 30th to October 22nd, 2025, and you would have had a preview of Saturn of May 24th to September 1st, 2025. So if you take a moment, just kind of reflect on that time period in your life last year, what kind of conversational themes are coming up for you or communicational themes are coming up for you, okay? It might be an ability for you to realize that these dynamics are turning into like more intuitive insights for yourself so that you can have practical thinking patterns that are going to strengthen your communication style and strengthen your thought process. Next, we are going to move into this eclipse that is happening on February 17th in your first house. So this is a big deal, Aquarius, because this is happening in your sign, and this is a new moon solar eclipse. So this is actually starting a new eclipse cycle that is going to last until January of 2028. So you have this eclipse period affecting your first house and your seventh house eventually for the next few years. If you want to think back to similar themes, this can be tied into events that could have happened between February of 2017 to January of 2019. If you want to go back a little bit further, you can think back to February of 2008 to August of 2009. Now, all of the themes are not going to obviously be the same, but there probably will be similar patterns that are they're surfacing now, okay? And this is really about a massive new beginning, a major new beginning in your sense of self and your identity, because this is the first house. So for many of you, this is how you self-express and how you actually physically turn up in the world. So you could be going through bodily changes. You could be losing weight. You could be gaining weight, right? You could be changing your sense of style. You could be changing your outlook. You could be changing how you present yourself. Maybe you're cutting your hair off. Maybe you are changing the clothes that you wear. It's a sudden shift in how you're choosing to present yourself. And it's because you're having these shifting events in like your mindset and your relationships and how you show up and your confidence and your appearance and all of those are up for renewal. Okay. So this is really about reinventing your personal image, which is also going to help every other facet of your life. Like if your relationships aren't looking as you would like them to, right? Well, then you change yourself so that you are able to attract the type of partners or partnerships that you would like, okay? This is about letting go of outdated old versions of yourself that are no longer resonating with you, okay? Maybe they once resonated and they served a purpose, but for my Aquarius and Aquarius risings, you're letting go of some versions of yourself. And it can be quite painful, I will be honest. When you're used to something and you're kind of having this like ego identity shift and renewal, it is very much like shedding skin, right? It can be a very transformational process, but ultimately, this eclipse is asking you to be more authentic with yourself, right? And for Aquarius and Aquarius risings, authenticity. Oh, that's like your identity. Like you lead with that, like being unique and being ahead of the curve and being the one that goes outside of the societal grain and does what they want and has more freedom. That's kind of a sense of your identity. And that's what you need to own, right? And if that feels stagnant or suppressed, then it's often times for some change for an Aquarius and Aquarius rising. So just know that there is a new chapter happening for you, which is going to put you at the center of attention um, over until 2028, seriously, because the eclipses are happening in your chart, and that's up for renewal. And then we're gonna close out the month here with this Pisces, Mercury and Pisces retrograde that's happening and beginning on February 22nd in your second house. Now, the themes of this will begin on Mercury's shadow, which actually begins February 11th. However, the retrograde period begins February 26th. I think I have said February 22nd in all of my videos. But anyway, make a note to fix that. Sorry, Aquarius. Mercury retrograde and the editing. Anyway, so this is all about you revisiting your sense of self-value and self-worth, and then how is that linked to your finances, okay? You could have some fogginess around money and your resources, and maybe you're like losing money, or maybe you missed a bill, or you misplaced money, or you misplaced an asset, or I don't know, you lost your car somehow. And it's something about misplacing or having confusion around your finances and your money and your self-worth and how those are all tied together. Okay, but really, this Mercury retrograde is meant for you to kind of really dig deep and really, really dig into what is like possession mean to you? And what is important to you when it comes to possessions and your value on things? Like really deeply, what is a meaning? And then how do you connect your self-worth to that? Like, are you somebody who connects their self-worth to how much property they own or how many designer things they own and so forth? Or, you know, is this a time where you kind of heal those patterns of self-worth and you resurface them for healing, essentially, okay? Because this Mercury retrograde can bring up a lot of miscommunication on an internal process when it comes to value and money and resources and ultimately survival. You know what I mean? Like designer bags do not mean just survival and thriving. And the second house is where we want to thrive here, right? And so what does that really look like and what does that mean like to you? So this Mercury retrograde wants you to slow down and kind of stabilize your material world. Maybe you're spending too much of your own values or the things that your personal assets. Maybe you're bleeding that into other people too much or other things, or maybe you're putting your worth into something else. Like maybe, I don't know why this is coming up, but like maybe there's like this spiritual guru that is just taking your money and not letting you think for yourself and process things for yourself. And they're like just bleeding you. They're like, oh, just buy this course and pay for this course and it'll change your life. And it's like really you've been with them for too long and you don't need their guidance anymore, right? And I just say this because me, as somebody who obviously provides astrology services, coaching services, I will quite frankly tell somebody, you do not need me anymore. Like you are capable of this on your own, right? Because some people just, they don't know when to let go. And it's like, sometimes you just need a little bit of information or direction, but it doesn't mean that you need to spend tens of thousands of dollars like pouring yourself into them because they give you some sense of self-worth or self-satisfaction when it's something that you should be encouraged by somebody to do this on your own, right? And I mean, that's just my perspective, but and not have somebody else just carry you through and you spend all of your resources on that, right? So maybe it's a dynamic of that. Like you're overgiving your personal assets and your self-worth into something else and your universe is like, hey, this is time to reclaim this for yourself. Like you don't need to do this, right? So that could be up for review. I would tell you the Mercury retrograde is time for reflection, revision. This could just be paying off things that you need to pay off, relooking at your finances, where you're putting money, where you're putting your assets, where you're putting your time and your energy. And that could also be linked to people as well. Okay. People, courses, environments, communities, anything like that. Where is your time, money, resources, energy going? Does that bring you value? Does that bring you a sense of self-worth? And if it doesn't, maybe it's up for renewal and revision and releasing and letting go. I wouldn't make any decisions though until Mercury goes direct on March 20th, the following month. So anyway, Aquarius, that's what I got for you for the month of February. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you on the other side.